The film Magnolia astonished audiences and critics alike when it released in 1999 because of the way it featured an ensemble cast with multiple different plot lines that all overlapped with each other and made each other stronger. A traditional film, even if it had a large cast, would have one central plot and maybe a few minor plot lines, but Magnolia and other ensemble films are exclusively made up of these side plots. Although it can be chaotic, if done properly, it gives you a ton of different perspective on the events in a film, and when the different characters overlap with each other, you can get some great scenes. Magnolia is definitely the most well-known of this style of ensemble film, but it wasn't the first, and Paul Thomas Anderson didn't reinvent the genre the way another filmmaker did. Robert Altman is the pioneer of this ensemble movie genre, starting with Nashville in 1975 and exploring the genre again in 1993 with Short Cuts. Most of Altman's films feature a large ensemble cast, including MASH and The Player, but Nashville and Short Cuts were in a league of their own in terms of how they used the ensemble cast and interweaving storylines to create something totally unique. In this video, I'll be looking at how Nashville was so successful at being so different, as well as how Robert Altman refined the genre again with Short Cuts before diving into Magnolia, which emulates the genre perfectly. The film Nashville is focused on the 1976 presidential election, specifically candidate Hal Philip Walker, who is in the town of Nashville for a huge fundraising event. This event and the celebration around it involves a ton of people, and this is where Nashville gets really interesting. Instead of just following Walker or just following the event, the film follows 24 different characters as they exist around the events going on in Nashville, and each character's individual story adds up to create the plot of the film. The cast of characters in Nashville ranges big and small, from a potential presidential candidate to a reporter to someone who just happens to be in town. As you follow these different characters, their stories and lives will cross over, which makes the world of the film feel more real, and the story feels more complex. The crossovers in Nashville are different from Short Cuts and Magnolia, because the characters really only brush past each other, and interactions are more a product of chance rather than a specific reason they interacted. This leads to an incredible climax at the fundraiser where a large amount of the main cast is seen together, each showing off their specific characteristics. Hal Philip Walker is giving a speech, there are country musicians who are playing songs for the campaign, and the reporter is giving insights into what's happening. This ending gives a certain view of society. It says that even total strangers are connected loosely to each other, and certain events can bring a group of people or even an entire country together. Nashville is different from other films with a large cast, like Clue, because it's not about how the ensemble cast works together for the most part, but instead focused on how the individual operates alone before combining to create an ensemble. Screenwriter Joan Tewksbury wrote the film this way after visiting the city of Nashville for research. She noticed that the city was built like a circle, and in the process of traveling around, you could pass the same people multiple times. She wanted to emulate this feeling in Nashville, so she created a table holding the characters and their locations on each day within the film. By doing this, the film captures something that truly feels like America, both good and bad. It's not as focused as the tight network of relationships and Short Cuts, but it feels very real. If Nashville was a revolutionary attempt to capture the chaos and connection created by American society and the influence of politics in our lives, Short Cuts is a more refined examination of the connections themselves in society, specifically the connections within the home like spouses and children, as well as between homes, such as the connection between neighbors. With Short Cuts, Robert Altman revisits the idea of examining connections in society, how they come to be and how they impact people. By focusing more on defined relationships, the film was able to make a more direct statement about relationships. Where a lot of Nashville was caused by serendipity, the events and characters in Short Cuts are so directly interconnected to the point of being melodramatic. One of the biggest catalysts for melodrama in this film is when a child of one of the families is hit by a car. The storyline of the film makes the child, the driver, and the family of the child all relevant characters, so you can see many perspectives on this event. Because of connections in the film, it causes a ripple effect where relationships that weren't involved directly in the incident are dragged into the emotional turmoil. In this case, a baker who is supposed to make a birthday cake for the child gets berated due to the high-stress situation. This happens numerous times throughout the film with different scenarios that could impact the average American family, including a wife cheating on her husband and a family member being involved with a crime and hiding it. This inherent chaos is further developed with the way Altman handles dialogue. Scenes will often have multiple characters talking at the same time, especially when crowds are present. In an article on Robert Altman's films, Rick Altman writes that the sound mixing produces soundtracks that are so complex, thick, and multi-layered. Far from reducing ambient sound to assure comprehension of dialogue, Altman often begins a second dialogue while the first continues, with both mixed at the same volume.
Right. I got it all written down, don't I?
The intentional sound editing takes something that is a clear way for a film to give the audience information and makes it as complex as the network of characters the film presents. Short Cuts represents an evolution of Robert Altman. This twist on conventional storytelling that he experimented with in Nashville is used to its fullest extent here to make the network of relationships incredibly clear and draw the most emotional impact out of these relationships. But just as Robert Altman revised his past work with Short Cuts, Paul Thomas Anderson took Altman's work and perfected it when he made Magnolia. Magnolia is the result of Paul Thomas Anderson taking Robert Altman's work on ensemble films and turning it up to 11. The relationships are a mix of coincidence and family, and the payoff of each character's storyline is more rewarding than anything in Nashville or Short Cuts. The film starts by introducing some examples of coincidences, each more unlikely than the last, before raising the central question of the film: is there such thing as coincidence, or does everything happen for a reason? The film explores this question, with the main story being made up of numerous characters and events that collide for the unlikeliest reasons. Every minor action shown in the film ends up having some role in a character meeting another character that should otherwise never meet. My favorite example of this is Donnie, who falls in love with a bartender with braces and tries to steal money from his boss to afford the braces, leading him to meet police officer Jim. The entire film is built on these coincidences and connections, showing how everyone in a society is connected in some way, even though they may feel worlds apart. Paul Thomas Anderson works these coincidences into a series of Easter eggs as well. Numerous times throughout the film, the number 82 appears in otherwise irrelevant places, from room numbers to decorations, referencing Exodus 8:2, which is both directly and indirectly seen in Magnolia. Where Nashville and Short Cuts approached the idea of connection and chance encounters, Magnolia dives deep into the idea, not just showing coincidence, but placing it front and center, questioning if coincidence really exists. Just as the ensemble film genre evolved, the purpose of each film's large cast is different. Even though they're all about the connections people have, each film tackles the nature and meaning of these connections differently. The setting of Nashville is sort of like Woodstock. It's this big festival with musicians, and a lot of people are coming into the city for the event. The movie sees these connections as coincidental. Everyone is in town for the festival, and they just happen to meet people. It doesn't really pass a judgment one way or another, it just views it as a natural property of society, that people will meet and become connected in some way. Short Cuts builds on this platform to present a pessimistic view of connections in society. It looks at multiple family units and shows the worst things happening to them, as if having a human connection inherently leads to problems. Beyond just inside the family units, it has this cynical view of the way the various family units connect across the city, as if the network of people are this spiderweb that traps families in unhappiness. In my opinion, Short Cuts views tragedy as stemming from defined relationships rather than simply happening to people. By contrast, Magnolia views tragedy as something that can happen by coincidence, but by having a network of people, whether friends or family, you can spread the burden out so as not to be overwhelmed. This element of coincidence is what makes Magnolia so special and what makes it the perfect example of the ensemble film in my opinion. It views a lot of relationships and connections in life as purely a coincidence that stems from shared society, but it sees it as a specifically positive thing. Just because they arise by chance doesn't mean they aren't incredibly important, and it shows that by the end of the film. There's been so much trauma for everyone involved, but they're able to handle the burden and move on because of the people they have around them. Every film in the ensemble genre, both the films I talked about here and the numerous other films in the genre, revolve around the idea of human connection and what that means. Some think it's good, some think it's bad, and some just find it to be an interesting part of life. Regardless of how these films view connection, they're all trailblazing in the way they approach storytelling and create not just a few characters, but create a massive cast of characters that are all equally enjoyable and important to the story. Robert Altman was a pioneer of this style of movie, with most of his work both in film and in television featuring large casts of great characters. Paul Thomas Anderson followed in his footsteps, creating his own unique style of movie filled to the brim with interesting characters and intersecting plot lines. Beyond just the enjoyment of seeing so many fun characters, ensemble films are impressive because of the amount of work they require to execute properly. The writing must be incredible for the audience to care about all of these characters and believe that their paths could cross as much as they do. If this video is interesting, be sure to leave a like and subscribe to the channel to get notified of new videos. Thanks for watching.